Hello and welcome all of you out there, and I'm back after a short break. I had some dental work going on, but I won't get into it. Let's just get into what's the most enjoyable Ark teams out there, because why not? In at number 10, I simply had to put the Volonosaur. I really do love this as an Ark creature, and sort of just as a general concept. It really does work well with its spine attack abilities, just being one of the most enjoyable in my opinion. And it's sort of sad that Wildcard never really revisited this creature and sort of added something similar to it, but it also is technically a good thing too. It stands by its own, and with the Volonosaurs on Genesis Part 2, you've got some even better ones out there if you wish to have the upgraded version, but both still offer a lot of versatility in the combat scene. Of course you wouldn't use them that close to a Theri, but you know, it's just for proof of concept in the B-roll. And their stamina also goes on for absolutely ages. You're going to have no problems with stamina drain on a creature like this. They truly are one of the most enjoyable in my opinion. Next up, I've decided to put the Rhino Ganatha, and although not a big favourite of mine, just for other reasons, which I won't get into today because I still really like the creature and it's not really valid in my opinion, but my brain is my brain. This creature just can do an incredible amount, and that ability to pick up just such large creatures still always is fascinating and enjoyable to me. Like picking up Rexes and Paraceratheriums and things like that, that just seems really insane to me, and it excites me every time I see one of these things do that, or just generally when I do it, because you always think of carrying creatures like that in a cryopod or soul traps, because who really uses cryopods unless you're playing on official or on console? Just use soul traps. They're just far better. They are a little bit rare sometimes, I find, to actually tame, and the tame method is pretty enjoyable too, as long as you get it right. It's exactly the same as the Reaper tame method, such as just impregnates a dino instead of your own self, and you're also going to need a bunch of resources which will appear on screen at some point rather than the XP. So the tame method, in my opinion, isn't quite as enjoyable as the Reaper, but that creature's later on the list, and I think we'll talk about this thing a little bit later, but still a very enjoyable creature to ride around on, deal damage with, and pick up insanely large creatures with. Next up, I've decided to put the Gasbags on the list, as the idea of the Gasbags still just really excites me as an Ark player, and it's sort of comedically funny in the way it moves. It's just basically passing gas as it moves through the sky, because it doesn't actually fly in the sense of using its wings. It simply uses its air, which it fills up through its mouth. So you know, it's a funny concept from Wildcard, and I really enjoy it. And once you get round controlling one, it can be a very fun experience to have around friends. And even if you're not great at flying one like I was in the B-roll, I should really update this at some point, you can still have a heck of a time as well, as long as you don't end up losing everything and getting things killed, because there obviously is a probability to some extent, which, you know, you always got to be careful out there. Ark is Ark at the end of the day, and it will throw you under the bus quite a lot. This is a really great traveller of heavy things, though. It has a great amount of weight and it flies at quite a decent speed. Doesn't even need a saddle. The saddle's only there if you want to bring a mate along with you, which is why I said it's quite good if you've got a friend too. Just really adds to the enjoyable level of this creature, but also just playing games with your friends is generally more enjoyable than just playing it by yourself. In at number 7, we've got the Baryonyx, and I simply have to put this creature here, at least in my opinion, because of the huge experience that I've had with a creature like this. It really does excite me as an Ark tame. It is such an easy one, and yet so useful and versatile to the general Ark player. A lot can be done with a Baryonyx that really can't be done with other creatures, at least within the range of when you're going to be taming this thing. It's saddled dirt cheap as well. It is an insanely great caving mount, capable of fitting into any sort of cave with absolute ease, apart from the artifacts of the Skylord, but basically a dung beetle's not even going to fit in that either. You've got to crouch through bits of that. There's not really a point of bringing creatures into that cave. But when you do bring this into any sort of cave, you're going to demolish all creatures that you can find in the area. You'll have absolutely no issues with that whatsoever. You're going to tower through tons and tons of creatures and just have no issues whatsoever, health wise and damage wise, because they really do pack. They're great at swimming as well. With their spin attack, they can stun creatures like the size of Megalodon. They truly are fantastic tames, really enjoyable to ride on, and just generally really enjoyable creatures. Coming up next, we have got the Desmodus, and for me, is there really anything more fun than just a blood bag farm that can also do 30% of your tames with a click of a button? It is just such an enjoyable creature to have around. The Sanguine Elixir, again, 30% of your tame is done like that with a click of a button, and their blood bag farms. And for a creature later on the list, that is going to be an extremely useful thing for me. Might not be quite for you, but definitely for me. But even if you're thinking of taming more Desmoduses, it's still going to be useful to you. They have the glide ability as well, and they are rapidly fast flies. You're never going to be let down by the speed of these things, at least I'm not in any sense. And they can also grapple onto walls, vertical surfaces, or ceilings, like a Tapejara, which is another quite nice creature, although I think I'm not really too fond on it. The Desmodus is definitely a far better creature in my eye. Spawns on Fjorda, really isn't too difficult to tame. Your first one is obviously going to be the hardest, but then you've got a blood bag farm, so it really isn't going to be too difficult for all the others. Just great flyers, great use for PvP, great use for PvE. And at number 5, we have got the Astrodelus, and I'm also going to put the Tropicatus here as sort of a side note, but I really love both of these creatures as they are just such fast flies. They are so rapid, like genuinely you can get a lot done with the speed of these things. You can traverse maps with absolute ease. You should have no issues whatsoever, especially in just generally getting from A to B really quickly. Even in the damage department too, they excel with all of their lasers or just bomb firing apparatus. And although maybe there's a little bit more gauge on how fast you're going on the Tropicatus, in my opinion the Astrodelus is just more of the smoother flyer, although its saddle is unlocked a little bit later on, and arguably its tame method's harder, although I've always found it a bit easier in my opinion, because Element is found everywhere on Gen 2, and if you just do it right and take precautions for void roams in the area, you really should have no issues, even getting one of these things quite early on. In the early days of the channel, I also made a guide to taming one of these things. It's an absolutely terrible video, but if you want to check it out, then you can add to about the 20 views that it's got at the moment. It came out over a year ago now. Actually, maybe don't look up, that's an embarrassing time in my channel. In number 4, we have got the Reaper, and this is just one of those creatures where it's like, can anything really get better than a Xenomorph alien? Obviously, apart from the creature which are in the 1, 2, and 3 spots, at least for me. Yeah, this thing really is up there when it comes into enjoyable Ark tames. It is such a great marathon to tame one of these things with its, some may say, laboriously long method, and also quite difficult one too, but I find it really isn't too bad once you get into it. And if it all goes well for you, which if you prepare enough it should, unless Ark's just being Ark and it absolutely ruins everything for you, then it should be a reasonably enjoyable experience. Simply trap it and get its health below 1000, that being a Reaper Queen of course, and then you need to let it impregnate you, get loads of XP, and then once your Reaper baby is born, try and claim that thing. Some Reaper pheromones will help if that baby's still trying to kill you, because it probably will, to be honest. They're not strictly necessary, at least I'm pretty sure, so I don't think you have to feed them to it early on, but I would keep them there for safe measure. They're not quite the hardest things to get, but it will take a little bit of elbow grease. But then you got yourself a cool Reaper, and it's such a great arc of progression. I love taming these things every single time on AB. Yes, they can be easily obtained on Gen 2, but I don't really see the fun in that, because it's really just not difficult in my opinion, and I love the progression. In at number 3, we have got the Maywing, and this is so enjoyable to me as, come on, look at firstly just how good this thing's model is. I love the design of this creature. It's sort of like a flying sky platypus, and it's really captured the hearts of many Ark players ever since its release. But also why it's just so enjoyable is it's just so fast. It's like honestly insane. This thing travels at such a pace, basically nothing can keep up to it unless it's had insane movement speed levels put into it, which isn't possible on basically all these servers out there, because little have fly speed leveling. I'm also pro fly speed leveling, by the way, if you're wondering. I think Ark should really bring it back. I guess, yeah, it was a little bit game breaking, but maybe set a limit on it for those official servers, like 135% or 150% or something like that, because it really does add a nice dynamic. Yeah, 1000 movement speed Maywings would be absolutely insane, and I've tested them out on some single player servers and they are so fun to ride on when they're that speed, but also a little bit not, because you just get stuck in everything. That's a portable feeding trough, so it is an enjoyable thing for breeders. They're pretty decent swimmers too, and they can gather berries, but the main reason why they're here is just the Maywings are so good with their speed. It's honestly insane. At number 2, I've decided to put the Bloodstalker, as this is my favourite all-time, just basically general travelling mount out there. While I love the Maywing and it's got loads of great speed on it, for just generally all travel combined, that including underwater travel especially, because I do actually spend quite a lot of time down there. I don't know why I've been doing that as of late, but I'm just really enjoying it, I guess. Just for general travel on the surface as well, they work so effectively, and they are my favourite travel mount at the moment. Not only can you see all the aggros of the creatures, but they are fast in literally any environment, underwater and on land. Maybe not in lava, but I don't think any creature is, apart from the Magmasaur, but that's not on the list because it really isn't one of my favourites out there, at least just generally in my opinion. But I do find these things to be very quick and agile in basically every environment that you're going to face. Again, the underwater environment travel of this creature is just insane, and that is one of the main reasons why I'm putting it here, as yes, a Basilosaurus is immune to all the electric eels and jellyfish, but you can easily skip away from them with a creature like this, and you can see if they're aggroed onto you well before they even reach you, which is why these things are just amazing. There's just so much peace of mind put into this creature, and they've really seemingly been so well designed for all of these environments, and I just love them dearly, especially with the Desmodus being bloodback farms. I can tame as many of these things really as I want, but usually I'll just settle for one high level, maybe get another one, and then I've got a breeding pair, and then I'll breed them together and then just take the baby of that, ride it around, and then if it dies I'll just breed those two Bloodstalkers together again, and boom, I've got another Bloodstalker. But I'll usually keep a couple of babies spare, because you should always keep some spare of your favourite dinos. And coming in at number 1, we've got the Deinonychus. I really can't find anything that is more enjoyable just as a general creature to me like the Deinonychus. It is such a good one for any kind of boss fight. It just deals a heck of a lot of damage, really, and with the bleed ability being inflicted on bosses as well, it is an all gore out fight, and I really do like these creatures for that. It adds just a sort of comicness to these creatures, and that's something which I really enjoy. Just there's blood spewing absolutely everywhere on this Bronto, and soon enough it is very much dead. With the pack buff too, you are buffed like absolute hell, and you've got tons of these things going after you as well, obviously along with you as sort of your pack mates, to help those boss fights go by as quickly as possible. Even for longer ones like the Master Controller, I find they still work well. Yes, a couple of health mutations are probably required, but it's not the hardest thing in the world to get those done, at least from my experience. Yes, on official everything it's still going to be a pain, but I'm working with 2.5x rates here with 5x on breeding, because I don't like to wait quite that long. Because a Giga taking a week on official is something which I really don't want. That's raising time, by the way. They can also scale any kind of wall or vertical surface with absolute ease. The climbing and the sort of parkour that these creatures offer is one which is sort of highly sought after. The Thylacoleo does it very well too, but the Deinonychus is just a better creature overall. The only thing it lacks is that underwater travel, but realistically I'm not going to be using it for that. I'm just using it for everything else. The 10 most reliable Ark tames. In at number 10 is the Thylacoleo, and you can always rely on a really good Thylacoleo to make your day even better, and it is an extremely reliable creature as it is very easy to control, very easy to use, and it will always do the job that you want it to do, unless you're fighting bosses, obviously, as the Thylacoleo is not allowed in boss arenas, which kind of does make sense. This is a really OP creature capable of so many things, but the fact that the Deinonychus is allowed in boss arenas is a kind of a bit of a shame, really, that the Thylacoleo isn't as well, as they are pretty similar creatures when you think about it. And the Thylacoleo is definitely a reliable one, and one which is very very easy to tame as well, albeit not spawning in the nicest of Ark biomes, being in the Redwoods biome, which isn't a very kind place. But compared to some other biomes that you'll find in Ark, like the swamp even on the islands, the Redwoods is a much friendlier place. And the fact that this is a simple knockout tame, and it really isn't a difficult to figure out tame, or really a difficult tame, especially with the net gun. Obviously you don't have that on ASA, but on ASC you do, and even with a basic trap as well. They are really simple tames, really easy to tame. The only thing you have to avoid is just them pouncing on you when they're in the trees, but if you take the right precautions, these things are really easy to tame, and I can't stress that enough. And also on top of that, their saddle level isn't too high as well. They're really quick, they're really agile, they're really mobile, they can climb so many surfaces, which makes them really great reliable travel mounts. They have a great weight stat as well, which is another really useful thing for even something like a carnivore to have, especially one of this size, as you will be lugging around some gear or resources or whatever you are actually going to be lugging around or using this creature for in general. And obviously through all of that, they will still give you all of that necessary damage which you require. The Thyla is honestly an insanely great tame, one of which you should tame as soon as you can. Next up, we have the Theri, and the Theri is one of the best creatures you will find out there in Ark. Nothing can really compare to the Tickle Chicken's reliability in terms of all of its harvesting and its gathering. This creature is just so useful for so many things. The fact that it can gather loads of fiber is an absolute godsend. The fact that it can gather loads of wood and thatch and berries and loads of meat as well, as it is great at dealing loads and loads of damage. But what would you really expect from those absolutely massive claws of which it yields? The Theri is an insanely great creature for so many things, and it is reliable for everything. It is easy to control, easy to tame, albeit its taming does take a little bit longer compared to some other tames, and you wouldn't expect it to take that long for its size, but it is mainly because it is a herbivore, and herbivore tames do generally take a little bit longer. Obviously, unless you have vegetables or kibble, then it will be pretty much the same as the carnivore tames. And also its saddle is unlocked at level 69 too, which is just a nice little bonus.
Nice.
And also on top of all of that as well, the Theri is great for killing the dragon on the island, as it is a herbivore, and the dragon's fire ability deals an obscene amount of damage to carnivores, so the Theri is pretty much your best friend when it comes to that boss fight. Right, next on the list we have the Yuty, and the Yuty is one of those creatures which I will always need for any boss fight that I may be doing, unless it's the Moda, as this thing really doesn't go underwater very well. But that is not what you're going to be using this thing for. You're going to be using this to be that creature that you ride on, especially on single player when you're doing the bosses. You send your fighting creatures in, you keep the Daedon by your side, and you just use those incredible rules that it has, and it will work every time, and it is so easy. No matter your Ark skill level, the Yuty will be a really reliable creature for you. There is no way which you can get the Yuty wrong. You simply just have to press a button and it does a thing, and then 30 seconds later you press that button again and it keeps doing that thing, and your creatures are going to be even stronger. And in some cases, if you use the Fear Roar as well, it will debuff the enemy creatures, even though that doesn't really apply for bosses, as they are creatures of great size and there is a size limit on what the Fear Roar applies to, but still a very useful thing in just general combat around the Ark map as well, especially for creatures which are smaller than the Yuty, which I think is around the size limit, and definitely for PvP raiders on Pteranodons. But just before we continue, make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Now, the Anky is obviously one of the most useful creatures that you will encounter in Ark, and it is by far the most reliable way to get all of that necessary metal, which is by far one of the most important resources, if not the most important resource in Ark. You're going to use that thing so much for tools, weapons, armor, structures, saddles, you name it, metal is going to be used, and you need to gather that metal in some way. And obviously you can always use the metal pick and the metal hatchet, but the Anky is going to gather even more metal every single time with the exact same reliability every time, so you always know what to expect when gathering metal with this thing. And it is just so nice to use and so easy to use that, again, like the Yuty, you can't get this wrong. You press a button and then boom, absolute insane amounts of metal. And you can definitely put the Dodic in this position as well, as both of those creatures are really reliable, easy ways to get resources quick, fast and easily, and definitely creatures which you will need to use at some point, especially if you're playing solo, to get all of that progress done quickly and efficiently. And these things are definitely going to help you out on that Ark grind. Now, the Basilo is a creature which is probably the best ocean tame in Ark. There is nothing to me which really does compare to this creature in terms of its uses and reliability. This is the best creature out there for doing any kind of underwater caves, although it does have a depth limit, which is a little bit sad, but it kind of does make sense, and it adds an essence of realism to this creature as well. But the reason why it is so reliable in the ocean is mainly because of one ability which it has, which pretty much no other Ark creature has even to this day, but the Thylacoleo will have that ability. And actually, I don't even know if it's in the game at the moment. I think it is. It might be on ASA the Island. I'm not really sure, and I haven't tamed one of those yet. And the Basilo is available to all Ark players, so that is why it is on this list. It is immune to eels and jellyfish and all of those kind of creatures, which is an absolute godsend when it comes to Ark, as they are the most pesky creatures in the ocean, and there's really no way to get around them, apart from when you have that legendary Basilo, as you can simply just swim past them and they can't do anything to you. So relaxing. In at number 5 is the Bary, and this is by far the best creature out there for doing any kind of cave runs, and especially on ASA at the moment, as the island is the only real available map to the general public at the moment. Obviously Svartalfheim is there as well, but that is a little bit of a janky thing to get through, and I'll not talk about it again in this video as it is not really relevant. In terms of the Bary's abilities, like I've said, this is the best caving creature out there because of its size. It is just so good at getting into caves, and it is so reliable, as every time it will get into that cave and it will do the job you need it to do, which is to get you to that cave artifact, and then that you can retrieve it safely and get out of the cave with no deaths. First try, no issues, no problems. And obviously some of the caves, like the insect cave, you may want to use something like a Megatherium, but you'll need to use a mana of cryos, and the fact that this thing is so convenient that you can simply just walk it into the cave and then walk it out, apart from obviously that one ice cave where literally no creature will fit. It is so convenient, and it has a wealth of abilities to help you along the way as well, like its spin ability, which you may have just seen there, which can stun creatures up to the size of a Megalodon. Definitely a cool ability to have, and definitely a really reliable, insanely great caving creature. Now, there is no doubt that the Giga is built for all of that power, and the fact that this is a really reliable creature on top of that, as you can get the same power every time when using it, is insane. And you may say, what about the Giganotosaurus? Isn't that a more reliable, better large carnivore? But the fact is, its taming method is so buggy, and sometimes with its bleed ability, its damage will vary, so you don't know what to expect out of it every single time, and sometimes it can be a really unreliable tame, which the Giga isn't. You know how to tame it, you know what to expect, you know how many resources it will take, and then every time you use the Giga, you know how much damage it will do, and you'll know instantly where its limits are and what it is best used for. And obviously when you use it, you will know exactly every single time how it will perform and all of that, and you'll have no stress about it. And obviously you can have more, and obviously you can always add more Gigas if you need more power, but I never really need more than one unless I am facing the Titans on extinction. Then I will definitely use more than one, as one simply isn't enough. And the only thing really to be careful for is their rage meter, as that is the only thing which is slightly unreliable about them, as if they take too much damage, they'll kick you off and simply kill you. So definitely be very, very careful when using the Giga, obviously. But apart from that, it is the most insane Carno you will see. In at number 3 is the Rex. And there is no doubt that the Rex is by far one of the most reliable carnivores out there. It is such a balanced tame that you always know what to expect out of a Rex, and they are so predictable when it comes to what they can do, what their health is, what their stamina is, what their weight is, and what the Rex's limits are, and that makes them an extremely useful tame. You may think all of that will make a boring tame, but actually it makes an even more useful one, as if you know everything about that creature and what it can do and what it can't do, you can utilize that creature to the fullest. Obviously, the Rex isn't going to do what the Giga or the Carcharodontosaurus can, but it can do a lot, and especially when it comes to bosses, where Gigas and Carcharodontosauruses are not allowed into the boss arenas. And especially on maps like Gen 1, the Giga is great for the Master Controller boss fight, especially with X-Rexes as well, as if you have Gen 1, you should definitely cash into those X-Rexes, as they are an even better version of the normal Rex, just with a little bit of a buffed ability, which is, I think, minus 25% in terms of damage that other creatures will deal, and plus 25% on damage reduction. So it is an extremely useful thing to have, and actually, on second thought, it may just be 125% extra in terms of damage reduction, which is good. Obviously, you get that extra 25%, and it just makes that creature a little bit stronger, and it gives it the extra special edge. But the Rex is definitely a reliable one of which is really easy to tame, and it is a very simple knockout tame. Very, very easy and simple, and you can't really go wrong with one. In at number 2 is the Desmodus, and you may think, well, why is this creature reliable? Its taming method is actually very, very buggy at times, but actually I haven't found it to be very buggy in comparison to things like the Carcharodontosaurus. And if you are taming a low level from the start, it is actually a pretty easy tame to get your head around, as it is pretty much a slightly shelled out passive tame. It is just a little bit of a more complex passive tame, you could say. There's better words than what I used previously, and it is actually very simple. When you kind of get down to it, you just feed it blood bags when it picks you up, and then you tame yourself a Desmodus. Pretty simple, and you can also feed it creatures, maybe, I think, to get 100% effectiveness, or that's how you do it on the Bloodstalker. Probably, don't quote me on that one. I've never tamed one of these with 100% effectiveness, as that's not the kind of Ark player I usually am. And once tamed, you got yourself a very, very reliable flyer, capable of so many things. They're so quick, they're easy to use, and they are an absolute blood bag farm, and they're really reliable for taming as well, with that Sanguine Elixir. And in at number 1 is the RG. And what would you expect, really? The RG is just that tame which every single Ark player needs at some point in their journey. And I know pretty much no one, actually, literally no one that has played Ark for a decent amount of time, over 100 hours, that has not used the RG at some point. It is just one of those creatures which has to be used at some point. This thing is great for gathering metal. Obviously, it doesn't gather the metal, it just transports you from A to B, and then you gather the metal, but it does have weight reduction on resources like metal, crystal, and obsidian, and its saddle acts as a little smithy too, which is actually pretty good. I'm not sure how expensive the saddle is overall. It's unlocked in the late 60s, I think, in terms of level. Don't think level 69 like the Theri, which is a little bit sad. But obviously, getting that saddle as early as possible is really what you want to do with the RG, as once you have it, you can level up from your sad Pteranodon, which you may have. Not that the Pteranodon is a bad tame and all, but the RG is significantly better, as it actually has good stam, it actually has good weight, and no more frustrations when it comes to metal gathering with the Pteranodon will be needed from then on once you have the RG. And obviously, it can pick up a wealth of creatures creatures as well, which is extremely useful, and when paired with the Anky, you have an absolute metal farming machine of a creature. And if you're with friends as well, you can pick up some other players too. And don't forget, if you're low on health, just quickly eat a dead corpse and you will get an insane regen buff. Definitely a reliable tame. So thank you to my wonderful patrons Ekaterina Puchkova, Karina Thorne, Dominic Masajewski, and Ethan Tapia, who have all supported me through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. If you want to join this list, then go join Patreon or YouTube members, but thanks to all of these guys.